Hello everybody, today I'm going to explore the topic of happiness. Do you know that there is an equation for happiness? If you don't know, then that's okay, because we're going to cover that today in this channel. Subscribe to my channel if you want to listen more about the secrets of happiness, and I hope that you enjoy the program. See you soon. Do you know that some people are actually getting doctorates in happiness? Yeah, you heard me right. There's degrees out there for getting a doctorate in happiness. But is it being happy an easy thing to do? And are we born happy or naturally happy? So today we're going to talk about happiness and the secrets to happiness. There are many books out there right now, and some of them, they claim they have found the secret of happiness and an equation to obtain happiness. So I don't know how many times can I say happiness anymore. All right, so we're going to talk about desire. Let me click over here. I'm going to put that. So desire. So I'm going to ask you some questions. And the first thing that we need to understand happiness is we're going to talk about desire. You need to know what you desire in order to be happy. So I'm going to help you reflect on what you believe will create more happiness in your life and why you believe it. It is important to know that just merely reflecting on your desires and observing whether they're authentically yours or somebody else's or influenced by others, can help you release desires that hold you back. So let me ask you something. What are the circumstances and things or desires that you believe will make you happy? Why you believe that some of these things or circumstances will create happiness for you in your life? Some of us want to be or are influenced primarily by the people that are around us, either that be in society or friends or upbringing. Are your desires authentic? So this is something that you have to find out. With desire, of course, comes reflection. If a change you're trying to make isn't working, like creating more joy or happiness in your life, it might be that you're trying to change the wrong things. You're probably doing things and creating desires because you think you should and not because you really want to. Or you're probably doing it because someone else thinks that it is what's best for you, or that in order to please someone, you're doing those changes to avoid being rejected. Making decisions based on what others think is giving away your power. So, do you find yourself resisting change for any of the following reasons? Let's evaluate some of these reasons. So, are you afraid of fear of repercussions from others? Or simply you just don't want to do something, or maybe you're not doing a total change because you're afraid of hurting someone else? Maybe you feel guilty that you will disappoint somebody that is close to you. Or, of course, we all go through this, the fear of being judged or criticized or rejected. So I want you to get a piece of paper if you want to do something interactive with me. And I'll try to post some questions on the chat box for this, but list on a piece of paper, list the things that you do that you don't want to do and the things that you want to do, but you don't. Let me repeat that one more time. I must confuse myself. So list the things that you do that you don't want to do and the things that you don't want to do, but you do. And then describe if you're choosing to do these things because of somebody else. We explain some of the reasons behind it. You know, sometimes it might be a work situation, sometimes it might be a couple. So This is important because it helps us realize how much power we're giving away, and also helps us consider that you do, or sometimes you're doing things that you don't want to do. I hate when that happens. It always popped up when I'm doing some kind of video. But if you find a correlation between the areas of your life that you're unsatisfied with the areas of your life that you allow others to determine for you. Imagine that you are in a life movie. This is sort of like a Hollywood movie, but you are the main character. And are you allowing others to write your screenplay? If so, I urge you to strongly consider whether you're willing to continue to allow people to limit your life. So these are some things that you can check. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of time for you to think about this, but you can write some of these things down or simply do a check mark and we'll count how many you have. Check off any area in which put a check mark next to what I'm gonna say. If you're willing to allow others to control your life when what you do for a living. So are you going to work and you're allowing others to control what you do for a living? Put a check mark if that's true. Do you allow others to control your life with the person that you're dating, or you're married, or you're going to marry, or you're gonna date? Or where do you live, the place that you live? Also, are you allowing others to control what you wear or how you look like? Or are you allowing others to tell you how to spend your time? How to raise your children? That could be another one. This one sometimes it happens with younger people also, but I think at one point or another we've all been there when they're talking about, are you willing to allow others to control life when what you believe or what you say, or whether or not what you want in your life? Do you have some kind of dream that people that are close to you are not allowing you to realize, or they're not allowing you to do? And also, are you allowing people that are close to you to tell you what kind of the potential you have? Or maybe they're like, you're trying to reach for a potential or a dream, and they're telling you that you cannot do it, or that you will not be able to reach your potential. So be honest with yourself. This exercise is just for you. You can always comment down below. And but if you're doing it anyway, I want you to think about how much power you're giving to these people that are around you. And this all is done through, of course, reflection we talk about. Now, we often are unaware of our limiting beliefs, and because they were passed down to us by the attitudes and beliefs of others. As long as they remain unconscious, we are not aware of them, they can hold us back from achieving our fullest potential and experiencing joy. For example, if we have heard that all of our life, and this was one that was very true for me, all of our life, that money is the root of evil, and it's very difficult to get. When you get money, you spend it rather quickly, things like that. Then you unconsciously create situations that limit your financial success out of fear of evil. And I think this happens to a lot of people. I'm finding out that happens to a lot of people. They're afraid of money, and therefore, because they're afraid of money, they will spend it. But this is an unconscious reaction, or they're not even know that they're doing it consciously, of course. Below is a list of common phrases. I'm going to tell you some phrases, and that are often told growing up, and I'm guilty of this too. My parents told me some of these phrases. Their parents told them some of these phrases. I even say some of these phrases before I knew I study, or I went to school to study for psychology and things like that. I told that to my children at times, So hear these phrases and just know that these are or myths or facts that we're told growing up in the community, and they are so normal to hear that we rarely question if they're true or not, or if they are valid. But they affect our system of life and belief, and sometimes we become extremely unhappy. So, of course, there's some truth and good intention behind most of them, but let's consider which ones have been conditioned to believe and which ones have impacted our beliefs in our life. So one of them, I already told you that one was money is the root of all evil. And so the good intention, when somebody says this phrase, the good intention they might have will be that the money doesn't bring happiness and can corrupt. And that is possibly true. However, when somebody says that, they're conditioning you by fear. So you tend to have a negative association with money, with having money, and you think you might turn into a bad person if you have money. So this is a potential limit with this association, in which unconsciously you're avoiding or sabotaging financial success to avoid the negative qualities that you believe you'll develop if you have money. And I saw this, growing up. Part of my family had quite a bit of money, and my other part of the family didn't. And if I heard something like that, it was mostly because I grown up thinking that this was true, when in reality it's a limiting belief. The truth is that money can come to you as long as you want for money to come in. You just have to work for it, of course. Nobody's saying that money is just going to appear without any action or hard work. But at the same time, if you have an unconscious belief that you are resisting for money to come in, then that will be much more difficult. Now this one, I remember this one too. Let's see if you remember this one when you were little. It says, finish your plate. There are starving people in the world. I always wonder, what somebody in another country had to do with me eating on my plate. But the good intention is that obviously they want to teach you not to be wasteful and to have compassion with others. But the association that most people do with this one, it is a conditioned fear of scarcity and guilt on having more opportunity than others. So the potential limit of this in real life will be when you're overeating, you're having health problems by holding yourself back, avoiding feeling guilty for having more opportunity than others. And I have also experienced this fear in which I hold myself back, many a time because I thought I was having more opportunity. People that have a lot of money also can have this limiting belief. I have seen people that are extremely healthy giving gifts to everybody because they feel guilty that they have that kind of money, so they're giving it away. So you'll find some of these limiting fears. Everybody has them. Now there's another one. Money doesn't grow on trees. I tell that to my children all the time. The good intention is that I was trying to inculcate my children, obviously, is be intelligent with your money. But the condition feared is a scarcity or a feeling that there will be not enough and it is hard to get. So what happens is when we say something like that to our kids, we're imposing potential limiting beliefs in which, we let them believe that they can have what they want if it involves having money and therefore not going for it. Now, what I used to tell my students, I must be really bad because I was doing each one of this one, but don't burn your bridges. Have you heard of that one? So the good intention is to teach students to keep good relationships with everybody. Also in the workplace with people who might one day be your further resource. You don't know where you're going to end up, in what kind of position or job. So I used to tell that to my students. But it's a conditioned fear. And there's an apprehension to do what you know is right for you, and you feel it will make someone disapprove if they will reject you. So some of the potential beliefs or limiting beliefs is not making a change or taking an opportunity when it comes out of fear of disappointing, offending, or otherwise burning a bridge. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that in which this fear might have a different connotation, but the limiting belief is there, the same. How about no pain, no gain? Have you heard that one? So of course the good intention on this one will be the reward. The reward is worth the struggle. But the condition fear will be the belief that in order to be successful, one must suffer. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I see this, a lot of business owners have this limiting belief in which, like, it is not worth it if I don't suffer. It is not worth it if, you know, if there's not, and they do this in relationships too. So you're holding yourself back for success because you think that if it's not difficult, then it is not worth it. Therefore, you're holding yourself back. You want it to feel difficult. That way you can earn it. Does that make sense? Now, though, another one that, is out there also is life is hard. I think we all say that at one point or another one. Life is hard. The good intention is the pain and the struggle are a normal part of, being human. And so there's a condition fear that there is no hope of you feeling or easing your happy in your life. Now, when you tell this to a person, life is hard, you're actually telling them that they have a potential limiting belief of being discouraged, that there's no hope, that you have to accept the difficulties and kind of like and the unnecessary suffering just because there might not be other options, and that this is normal, and that's not really true or valid. Okay. This is actually one of the 10 commandments. I don't know what, but honor thy mother and father. Okay, so the good intention is obviously to treat your parents with respect and grateful for them. But the condition of fear is overly concerned over disappointing parents, and that you will be disowned if you follow your heart. And I think this probably is more, and this DNA is probably more closer to younger people. But the potential limiting belief, it will be holding yourself back from what you want and know yourself what you need to do just because of trying not to disappoint your parents. And I think we all experience that when we're like maybe 18 or 19 and we decide that we want to live on our own. We're teenagers and we, how hard it is to tell your parents, oh, by the way, I'm just decided to move out, when you're like 17 or 18, and for fear to disappoint your parents. Another one could be no one ever said life is fair. And so those are some of the limiting beliefs. I could go on. I'll give you 2 or 3 more without going into all the limiting beliefs, but you must have heard some like good things come to those who wait. Or sometimes you're waiting and you have to wait a long time to get what you want. So, and how about you have to pay your dues? It's funny how a lot of these are related to suffering and attachment and the everything has to be hard in order to be earned. And that's not really the case, isn't it? I think one that I learned over time, that I tell my children now is, I think, and that comes from experience, will be better to work smarter than harder, right? Which is kind of almost the opposite of, good things come to those who wait, You have to pay your dues. We talk about that one. Speak only when spoken to. This is definitely in the fear. I know that my generation is different than my children's generation, obviously, and my younger siblings. But when I was small, they used to tell me, don't speak until you're spoken to. So that creates a potential limit or avoidance on activities and circumstances requiring you to be an authority. So it actually harms self-esteem in the child. And it makes you not to want to stand up for what you believe or speak in front of others. And the same thing will go for children are meant to be seen but not heard. This is, in my culture, this was, at least when I was small, this used to be one that was very much applied by my grandparents, for example. So, which of these phrases were you conditioned to believe? And do you believe all of them to be true or not, and why? Why? Now, after thinking and reflecting on some of those, can you see why, relating to your life, what you've been going through, how many of those have influenced the way that you think today? Comment down in the box, in the comments if you want. So, of course, what we need to do is we have to change our perspective. And perspective is everything when it comes down to how we feel. And the words that we use are critical factors for our perspective. So we have some examples of keywords that, if changed, will impact your unconscious mind. Because remember, we're talking, if you saw my other PowerPoint, we're talking about symbols and unconscious mind. So the shift may seem small, but it can have a drastic effect in our happiness and overall motivation. So I do this a lot sometimes when I'm referring to losing weight. I don't know if you have been there. You go and you lose 10 pounds, you go up again, you feel discouraged, and you say, I have to do this. I have to go to work. I have to lose weight. So we can change that to say, I get to go to work. I get to go to work. I get to lose weight. You see how different it feels? So there's some, just saying can or cannot. What areas do you limit your ability to truly be authentic? Because you're either you're afraid to be rejected by others, or you're limiting yourself because of feeling joy because you want to make others happy. You're sacrificing yourself. Changing the terminology, what it does, it teaches your brain to stop shutting off possibilities and instead look for ways to create the things that you desire. And I told this to somebody in one of my sessions, in which if you think about negative things, only negative results and negative answers will come out. That is one thing that you have to take into account. So changing your way of thinking and your attitude. We need to train our brain sometimes, because this culture is extremely negative in general. Pop culture especially, they train us to be in fear and constant negation of the good things sometimes. So we need to teach our brain to talk to ourselves in a positive manner. So how can I change? What do you feel limited about? You want to make this change to feel better? So we're going to change your what if. I also use the what if a lot. Many times we use what if in a negative way. For example, when people say, what if I get fired? What if my relationship goes bad? And so on. These what ifs take away our ability to feel joy, because they stop us from doing what we really want in life out of fear. So we can try to turn the what if into positive ones. What if you get a promotion? What if your relationship improves? We never really think that way, we always try to think the negative way. Remember, the unconscious mind is powerful, and it will look for whatever you tell it to look for. And a lot of people think that our minds, and I'm talking about the mind, not only the brain, of course, but the mind, the ego is in most control of the brain, even though it only occupies really and we'll talk when during hypnosis or hypnotherapy in one of the courses I'm going to give you. I will talk about the mind, the different types of the mind that they are, and sort of like compartments, and we'll talk about the ego. But the ego wants to control constantly everything because it depends, your survival depends on the ego having control. But the ego only is 5% of the total mind. We want our creative mind to be in control of most of our mind. So by saying, what if something amazing happened, your mind will begin scanning your life for amazing things. And I gotta tell you, I am you know, when I started the YouTube channel, I didn't start long ago. It's only been a few days. But when I talked to several people about it, and all of them, without delay, told me, what if, I told them, I said, well, you know, what if I mean, my intention was not to become a YouTuber, you know, like my son, he wants to be a YouTuber, he's 8 years old. He's like, I want to be a YouTuber, because they see all the cars and the money and the apartments, but I didn't want to become a YouTuber. I don't want to become a YouTuber. That's not my main point. But all of my friends, when I asked, most of them, they said, oh, you know, that's impossible to break in YouTube. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, I mean, if you think that way about everything, you're never going to do anything. You know, you need to think positive and move on. And they might try to help you, obviously. People try to be like, make sure you don't quit your job just to do YouTube, you know. But at the same time, you got to think sometimes you have to take a risk. If you want to improve, if you want to grow, you have to take risks. So let's try to change the negative thinking into positive thinking, to change our perspective. And I love this picture. It says so much about our ego and our identity. What roles do you play? We all have masks. We all have masks. You're wearing a mask when you go to work. You wear a mask when you're, hopefully not when you're with your partner or somebody in your family, but close that you're close to, with your children. But in social situations, we do all wear masks. Facebook, social media, our mask of our life is. What roles did you see growing up from your caretakers and those around you? And in which ways they play out the same way in your life? Who you are imitating? What roles do not serve you and you would like to release? And we talk a little bit about the ego. The ego is a survival mechanism. It's part, obviously, of our mind and our identity. And it has been since the beginning of time, since prehistoric times. Some people might call the ego the lizard brain. And normally it gets activated when we feel threatened by something, out of fear or out of survival. And so, as far as your ego and your identity, there's different levels. Some levels are internal. Internal, we talk about happiness. And external could be attachment and roles in ego. Attachment and roles. Expectations. Some people might even put expectations in there. So, who am I? This is a question that, a common reason that many people resist or avoid change, even if it will improve their life, is because the issue they're trying to address has become interwoven with their self-identity. And so when something is threatening your self-identity, it becomes a survival mechanism. So this is the case especially if the issue at hand is really painful. People become attached to their pain. It becomes part of the story. We're emotional human beings. And what has gone wrong, what has been done to them, how they're being hurt so much, what to think it is who they are. And a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I went to see a movie with my daughter, I think The Fault. Under the Stars or something like that. It was a pretty cool movie, but I did like one of the thoughts that the main actor had. I forgot his name. Yeah, but he said that he was suffering from cancer, and another girl came in that was suffering also from cancer, and he asked her, tell me your story. And she started to tell him her story, and he stopped her right away and said, you're not telling me who you are. You're telling me what the disease is. What the disease is doing to you. You're not telling me who you are. So here I'm going to tell you the same thing. You're becoming attached to your pain because it is personal, because it's part of the story. You only see what people have done wrong, what they have done to you, how they have been hurt. So notice how part of you resists letting go of the things that make you unhappy, because it's hard. We don't want to have to see the things that are dark and hidden and inside of us, or things that we have done that are wrong. So isn't it funny how part of you gets a peculiar pleasure out of your pain? I mean, it's helping you to escape. For example, if you hate your job and you believe that you're someone who never likes what they do for a living, you might find it difficult to find a new, more enjoyable job. Or you will not have to give out your belief that you're someone who doesn't like work, for example. If you're mistreated or abused by your significant other, but you believe that you're someone who's always a victim, you might find it difficult to remove yourself from your relationship. You also have to give up the belief that you're a victim. And we'll talk another day about archetypes. The victim archetype is very present in this society. And we'll talk about that archetype in particular. So, in one way, when you do a reflection on yourself, do you talk about your situation a lot with others? Do you get attention because of it? Does it give you a sense of purpose? So remember that you are not what you do, or what you have, or what others think of you, or your past, or your problems. If you find that your problems are or pain, or the things that you are discontent with, the part of your identity, you have to ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Now, sometimes we suffer some of these, I'll say, spiritual ailments because of illness, or victimization, or poverty. And that's a different thing. However, we need to remember that although we all go through some things like that, we don't need for those things to become a part of our identity. And sometimes if they do, you have to celebrate it. There's always a way to celebrate reigning, or how to say, going over those things that have hurt you in the past. You have triumphed over those things. You have come to the other side more fulfilled, more grown mentally. You have gained some, and I see you're seeing my cat on the background. Hi, Winter. He's just like stretching with her. But so the 5 success identities to replace with from the negative to the positive are grateful, engaged, forgiving, contributing, purposeful. I can't say that word, purposeful. With purpose. There you go. With purpose. All right. So let's talk about time, the past and the future. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but at the beginning, from the beginning slide, from the first slide, what we've been doing is we're in a circle, and in the outside is everything that is external. And I noticed that a lot of people try to change their external environment, constantly trying to change the external environment to change how they feel. But really, the internal environment is the part that we need to change in order to be able to do any kind of action on ourselves. We cannot control the external environment. We can't control other person. We can only, control ourselves and what we think and what our actions are. So we began with envy and desire as an influence, as being programmed by our environment. We went towards the inside of the circle with limiting beliefs, talking about the unconscious and agreements. And then we talk about the ego, which is closer to the center, with attachment and roles. And now we're going to talk about remembering and experiencing time and being conscious of time. So I'm going to give you an activity. It's called the vacation activity. So imagine that you had a new great camera, and you have offered to make a video or memoir of your trip. So where would you like to go? Where would you like to go on that trip? Think about that. Now you're able to go on the vacation that you want, but you are not allowed to bring a phono camera on your trip. I know some of the new millennials are gonna die with this, but and your memory will be erased when you return. Wait a minute, what? Your memory will be erased? So where will you choose to go? Wow, that's a tough question. All right, so tell me those two. So first was they give you a great new camera and you're offered to make a video memoir of your trip. Where will you go? That was the first question. And then the second question, you go on the vacation that you want. You're not allowed to bring a phone or a camera, and your memory is erased when you return. So where will you choose to go? That is a strange question. But I'll explain. If you put the comments below, I'll explain later on what does that mean. And of course, I'm going to talk about, how we use our time and our energy to help others. But many times we choose what we do with our time and energy based on people's opinion of it. And even more so, humans tend to make decisions about their lives and vacations based on future memories they want to have, rather than because they will truly enjoy the experience. Now, one of my hobbies is traveling. I love traveling, and especially my friends call me the librarian, by the way, because I'm always next to books or wanting to be close to books. I was born in a city, and I'm a very metropolitan person, and I always want to go to Europe and travel. There's beautiful places in the United States and other countries. Visited a lot of different countries. I live in several countries, but I have an affinity for traveling to different cities. So, just thinking on vacations. You are the one that are creating your memory. It's your energy, it's your time. You're the one that's creating your memory. And you are the one that need to truly enjoy the experience. You have to, what it matters is that you really have to do what you truly want to do and enjoy. So, sometimes things happen. Let's say that you plan a vacation and then something happens. A family emergency happens. You cannot go to the vacation. That is different than you changing your plans for a vacation because what somebody else thinks about it. They might have good reasons for you not to want you to go to vacation. It's too expensive. It's too long. I'll miss you, won't see you, things like that. You can't see your children, whatever the reason is. Okay? you don't have a passport. I don't know, I'm making this up, but you can think of different reasons. But the important thing is that at the end of the day, you really, your soul needs to be in accordance with what is telling you. It is nice to, obviously, to be a kind person and to think of others. But I think women tend to do this a lot. We tend to give ourselves way too much, too often, to too many. Especially moms, right? So I want you to think that sometimes you just need, I mean, I used to like to go to, like once a year, do a sabbatical of sorts, even if it was just a couple days by myself, because it will clear your spirit and your mind. Definitely will. All right, so now that we talk about time, we know that we are all conditioned. We talk about the environment a little bit, and but in here I wanted to talk to you about things that you notice that keep repeating itself in your life, some kind of cycle. Are you dating the same people? Are you losing your jobs every 2 years? Is it difficult for you to commit to a full-time job? Or are you having problems or trouble finding the right relationship? What are some of the triggers that create a negative emotional response in you? There's a lot of this going on right now. With 67 or more % of the population of the United States being either depressed or in antidepressants. There's a lot of this. And with triggers, we're talking about negative emotions or emotional responses that come from either words that somebody else uses, phrases, body language, foods, yeah, even taste can be actions, smell, people, environments, all kinds of different things. So what are some of the triggers that create a negative emotional response? But also want you to think, what are the things that create a positive emotional response? Some words or phrases or body language or foods or places or people. Because the trick is, once you know both, then you can substitute one for the other. You can, and we'll learn some of the tools when we go into the later part of the video. We have a toolbox of things that you can do when you feel a certain way to change those patterns of conditioning. So get a paper and pencil and just write down 5 things that you can or think that you can give yourself to make yourself happy. 5 things. Write it down. It can be a song. It can be a place. It can be people, memories, a video or a movie that you like. Or books. Don't forget books. I didn't put it in here in my book, but books. Don't forget that. All right. So let's get wired for joy. Let's change our state of how we think about things. So what are the steps to know how to change? Because I mean, you can say, well, Susana, it's really easy. You're telling me to change. But how do we change? What if I'm in a bad mood? What if, I'm having problems with my significant other? What if, I don't know, I'm making this up, but my children is an addict or something like that, or I'm dealing with abuse, or I'm homeless. How would I change my state? How do I get into a state of joy? What is that equation that you're talking about? So here's where we come with the toolbox. So obviously the first step is recognizing your current state. So by accepting how you feel, you will not add resistance to the feeling. So some people, and we're human beings, we try to resist the feeling. Because sometimes feeling lousy just feels good, right? Like, well, at least it gets us through some parts. So determine what your brain state is. And for example, let me tell you, if your brain state is, Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. We will use something called the sanctuary tool. I'm going to tell you in a minute what it is. And the effect is we celebrate. And then what if you feel good? You don't feel great, but you feel really good. Then we'll have a feelings check tool. And then how about if you feel a little stress? Then we have something called an emotional house cleaning tool to help you. And then definitely stress. Oof, you need a cycle tool. And then you're stressed out, like nobody's business. Then we can use something called a damage control tool. Oof, you see that? Okay, so what is a damage control tool? Let's just start with a hard one. Okay. The goal is to calm yourself down with this one. And you can tell yourself or say out loud, you can also say it out loud, is don't judge yourself to others. So say don't judge. Or you can say minimize harm. I know it seems silly, but if you say this aloud, it will help you to get rid of some of that anxiety and fear. Or you can repeat the phrase 10 or 20 times, which I use this one sometimes. This will pass. This is going to pass. So how about cycle tools? Cycle tools is when you are definitely stressed, but you're not like super stressed, but you're really stressed. So let's go with this one. Let's say, well, first you can express that with an emotion by saying, I feel angry that so-and-so, this happened. I feel sad and afraid, I'm guilty that this happened. And then, of course, we can go to the next one, which is emotional house cleaning tool. And the emotional house cleaning tool, we use it to express negative emotions and release those emotions. And so you go from 1 to 4. What does that mean, 1 to 4? So we go like in a cycle. We say, I feel angry that blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blank. I feel sad that blah, 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 blah. I feel guilty that so-and-so. I fill in the blank. We also can express positive emotions like, I am grateful, I am happy, I'm secure because of this. I feel a surge of joy because of this. So we try to do more of a positive psychology and affirmations. And then finally, for feelings check tool, this is normally what most people do when they're experiencing a lot of stress, is asking, how do I feel? What do I need? Do I need to relax? Do I need to eat? Do I feel lonely? We ask ourselves these questions all the time. Do I need support? But the point of the toolbox is that you have more than one thing or more than one tool that you can use in different situations, especially when you're escalating and being really stressed out. And the sanctuary tool, finally, is when you're trying to love yourself and connect with yourself, feel compassion with others, and feel a surge of joy. And that's more on a spiritual level. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the toolbox. Now, I love this girl, the mood and emotions. I'm going to try to put some of these things for my YouTube channel. But one of the best ways to shift our emotions to joy and to be in a place of gratitude, and I have seen Tony Robbins do this in every show, in which he will jump up and down, start screaming, and he starts dancing, and then he makes everybody in the audience to stand up and dance and jump and scream. And the whole point of doing that is because you're changing your physiological reaction. Once you change your physiology, that means the way that your body is acting chemically, then there is no point. You can't hide your emotion anymore. and normally you'll start experiencing positive physiological results, obviously. So one of the best things you can do is journaling. Is one of the best ways to shift yourself to a positive emotional state and to start thinking of everything that you appreciate and in your current situation, yourself, your world, or whatever that is currently triggering you not to be in a positive state. A great tool to use is called an appreciation or gratitude journal. I have seen some of those that, if you don't want to do one yourself, they have in Barnes & Noble, you can get one. And so it is good to do a little bit of writing, like either before you get up, or when you're feeling stressed out, or at night before you go to bed. This will help you to get into a great brain state and give you a powerful, sustainable boost of joy. Now another technique is called anchoring. An anchor is a stimulus that triggers a response in you and another person. When a person reaches the peak of this intense emotional state, a link is neurologically created between the stimulus and the state. So an anchor state is always a rich, fulfilled, associating psychological state of experience. And we do this in hypnotherapy a lot, in which we might be talking to our client or to our patient. I like to use the word client better for hypnotherapy. And we might touch them in the shoulder when we approach them. The massage therapist also anchors before even start giving a massage. A lot of them will anchor, do a little prayer, or, depending on their beliefs, ask for permission to start giving a massage. So you're altering a psychological state, and you, for example, let me put you an example. You're at work and somebody starts crying because their boss told them that they got fired, or they didn't do enough sales, and you go to hug a crying person, and sometimes it might seem like the comforting thing to do, but you're creating an anchor response in that the person you're hugging then becomes linked to this upset state. And next time you give them a welcoming hug, they might feel upset, or they might avoid you because you've been in that situation. Although you had never had that intention, that person might be associating or confusing both of them. This occurs naturally and unconsciously. For example, another example I can give you is like if you have a song that you like, and it brings back a memory. Every time you hear that song again, it will bring an anchor for you, either that being a visual sight anchor, or touch kinesthetic, or even a combination of those. So we'll talk more about anchoring when we go through hypnosis. And we're getting almost to the end of our hour, so I'm going to go through the steps to forgiveness. The step to forgiveness, we talk about this because sometimes recuperation needs to do with somebody that has hurt you, or somebody that you hurt, some people that you need to forgive, or forgive them for something you did. So you have to be able to acknowledge the pain of the lack of forgiveness has caused you, and how is this impacting your life. I believe that going over something every time that you're thinking of something that has happened to you, or that you have done to somebody and you feel guilty about, you're actually reliving the experience, which creates a lot of physical and changes in your body and in your spirit. So it is always good to go through the steps of forgiveness, and sometimes it helps to create an apology letter, email, phone call, or talk to the person. Remember that this is for you and not for them. And sometimes you might not be forgiven, so you have to not to expect to be forgiven. So forgiveness is all about personal power, and I'm going to leave you with this last message. And so a life well lived is your best revenge, really. Therefore, you need to take your power and focus on your desires. Don't do it because you'll show them. Do it because you want to live your life with freedom and passion. And forgiveness is an opportunity to grow and live and heal. Sometimes we have negative experiences, and I know you know this, but they are blessing in disguise. And we need to remember that forgiveness is 100% our responsibility. So go ahead and start creating your own equation for happiness. One day I'm gonna probably put a link on the channel down below the description with a book that I found out that it was really useful, that in which I forgot the name of the gentleman, but I'm gonna put the name of the author and the link there. And the gentleman that lost his son, his teenage son, and he wrote a book that's called The Equation of Happiness, and it's a very good book. So I'm gonna put the link in there so you can maybe get something out of his experience. Thank you so much for listening to me. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope that you enjoy. Thank you.